Laughter fades. Conversations slow. One by one, heads nod off, leaning against each other, wrapped in furs. Protected by flickering firelight and familiar. Breathing, this is more than just a scene from Pressured. It's a social invention. A behavior that shaped who we are. Because as it turns out, sleeping together, not just surviving, but resting together, rewired the human brain for connection. Let's unpack that. Among mammals, very few species sleep in mixed stage, cooperative groups. But Homo sapiens evolved to do just that, and it changed everything. By sleeping in groups, early humans developed deeper bonds. They felt safer, allowing for longer, uninterrupted REM sleep. But more than that, shared sleep created emotional synchrony. When you sleep near others, your brain subtly aligns with theirs. Heartbeats sync, breathing slows in rhythm. Even dreams may echo similar themes, and in a world without clocks or smartphones, this synchronization mattered. It meant group rhythms. When to rise, when to move, when to hunt became communal, and when your brain is in sync with others. You start thinking not just as an individual, but as part of a tribe. Now consider this. REM sleep enhances emotional memory. It's why painful or joyful experiences stick. When shared around a fire, then processed through deep, restorative sleep, these moments became part of a collective story, not just personal memories, but shared legends. Add to this the power of night rituals, lullabies, stories, chants, and you have the earliest foundations of culture. Rituals done before bed weren't just soothing. They were a form of group emotional regulation, reinforcing safety, roles, even values. Anthropologists now believe these nightly behaviors were as important as hunting or tool-making and forming cohesive social units. And sleep isn't just about trust, it builds it. When you're vulnerable, literally unconscious, surrounded by others, you must trust them not to harm you. Over time, this nightly surrender helped wire Homo sapiens for cooperation, empathy, and compromise. Compare this to other human species. There's limited evidence of Neanderthals engaging in group rituals before sleep. Their campsites were smaller, more scattered. It's less evidence of coordinated sleep or storytelling. It's less emotional bonding. In contrast, Homo sapiens seem to have created what researchers call sleep societies. Groups where the ritual of resting was as significant as what came before it. This might even explain early religion. In dreams, ancient humans met ancestors, gods, monsters. These visions weren't seen as illusions. They were messages. Dream sharing helped build mythology, law, and meaning. And as dreams were passed from generation to generation, they became something more. Civilization's first stories. Sleep. Then, wasn't just rest. It was a portal into imagination, morality, and belief. And it brought us closer not just to each other, but to the idea of what it meant to be human. Fast forward a few thousand years, the hunter-gatherers who once slept in open groups around fires are now living in villages, farming the land, building walls, dividing labor. It's the dawn of civilization. And with it came a shocking new reality. Less sleep. Wait, really? Yes. As humans settled into agricultural societies, our sleep began to shift, and not always for the better. Why? Let's start with the obvious. Agriculture brought hard labor. Farming was dawn to dusk, seasonally driven, physically exhausting. Work. That meant earlier wake times, often before sunrise, and fewer opportunities to nap during the day, something hunter-gatherers regularly did. More work meant less rest. Then came hierarchy. In early civilizations, roles became rigid.
8 servants.
Soldiers, farmers, priests, each with different schedules, duties, and stress levels. Unlike egalitarian tribes, early cities divided people not just by task, but by when and how they slept. Night became divided too in hunter-gatherer groups. Nighttime was communal, a shared experience of darkness, story, and sleep. But in cities, the night was stratified. Guards watched, merchants worked late, rulers plotted. The elite might sleep soundly, but others stayed alert, and sleep itself started to fragment. Here's a fascinating detail. Historical records suggest that for much of early civilization, humans practiced biphasic sleep, two distinct sleep periods. People would sleep a few hours after sunset, and wake in the middle of the night, the first sleep and second sleep, then return to bed. In that waking period, they'd pray, write, stoke fires, even socialize. It wasn't insomnia. It was normal. Some researchers believe this pattern was an adaptation to overcrowded, noisy sleeping environments, city walls, tight quarters, shared rooms. Others think it was a psychological response to anxiety, work stress, or even environmental danger. Whatever the cause, it marked a change. Sleep was no longer sacred, it was functional. Even our dreams began to change. In tribal cultures, dreams were vivid, symbolic, often guiding decisions. But in early cities, dreams became personal. People started keeping dream journals, asking priests to interpret them. Dreams were no longer shared stories. They became status symbols, or messages for rulers. And what about light? Humans invented oil lamps, candles, and eventually street lighting. Darkness faded. Our circadian rhythms, tuned for millennia to sun and moon, began to drift. Nights got shorter. Sleep got shallower. In short, civilization complicated sleep. It gave us structure, innovation, and security, but it chipped away at the very thing that made those things possible: deep, connected rest. And that raises the question, we moved forward. Were we already starting to burn out? Let's fast forward again to now, because today, in the age of screens and schedules, the war on sleep is fiercer than ever, and it's hitting our ancient brains hard. Take a look at your bedroom. Is it quiet, dark, cool, free of distractions? Or is it glowing with blue light, buzzing with notifications, echoing with mental to-do lists? Welcome to modern sleep, where technology moves forward. But our brains stay ancient. Here's the hard truth. Our sleep needs haven't changed in 300,000 years. Our biology still expects sunsets and firelight, physical exertion, group bonding, and natural darkness. Instead, it gets caffeine, 10-hour workdays, scrolling, and Netflix at midnight, and it's breaking us. Let's start with the basics. Most adults today sleep less than 7 hours a night, but our ancestors likely averaged between 7 and 9, including naps, and their sleep was more efficient. No alarms, no screens, just natural light cues and physical fatigue. Now, over 70 million people suffer from chronic sleep disorders in the US alone. Insomnia, apnea, anxiety-driven sleep loss, all rising. Why? Because our environment is unnatural. Artificial light suppresses melatonin, the hormone that cues sleepiness. Blue light from phones and laptops delays REM onset. Stress hormones like cortisol stay elevated late into the evening because our work lives never really end. Even the way we treat sleep has changed. It used to be sacred, a communal healing act. Now it's treated as inconvenient. Thing to shave down, a weakness. We glorify hustle, brag about pulling all-nighters, sacrifice sleep for productivity. But the science is clear. Sleep deprivation ruins memory, weakens immunity, dulls creativity, and erodes empathy. Sound familiar? We've created a world where we fight our biology every night. And the cost? It's anxiety, depression, burnout, forgetfulness, disconnection. But there's hope. Sleep science is now a booming field. And what researchers are discovering confirms what evolution already knew. Dark, cool rooms help. Regular schedules matter. Reducing screen time before bed can drastically improve sleep quality. Naps. They're not laziness. They're cognitive boosts. In fact, modern sleep coaches often encourage clients to return to ancestral rhythms, less light at night, more natural movement during the day, even bedtime rituals reminiscent of prehistoric routines, because sometimes the solution to our modern problem is looking back. So where do we go from here? Sleep is ancient, essential, beautiful. But now, as technology accelerates, we're asking a new question. Can we change sleep itself? Can we compress it? Improve it? Replace it? It's already happening. Startups are developing sleep optimization apps, smart beds, brainwave entrainment devices. Athletes are using red light therapy to deepen recovery. Silicon Valley executives are experimenting with polyphasic sleep schedules, multiple naps instead of one long rest. In the military, they're testing sleep replacement drugs, REM simulators, even neurostimulation helmets designed to speed up memory processing while asleep. Science fiction? Not anymore. Some futurists predict a world where we no longer need 8 hours, or genetic tweaks or brain tech allow for condensed sleep, maybe 2 or 3 hours a night, with the same benefits. But here's the million-dollar question. Should we? Sleep isn't just a maintenance cycle. It's where we feel, dream, connect. Some of humanity's greatest ideas, from Einstein's relativity to Paul McCartney's melodies, came during dreams. If we hack it, what do we lose? More importantly, can technology ever replicate the emotional depth of dreaming, the storytelling, the bonding? Maybe the goal isn't to eliminate sleep, but to reclaim it, to return to firelight evenings, to bedtime conversations, to rest that restores not just the body but the soul, because at the end of the day or night, sleep is the great equalizer, rich or poor. Ancient or modern, we all close our eyes and enter the unknown. And maybe that's the secret. Maybe. Sleep is where we're most human. Not just because it heals, but because it humbles. Because it reminds us that even with all our progress, all our knowledge, all our tools, Homo sapiens, on the other hand, created safer sleeping environments, shelters, fire, group protection. This allowed for longer sleep cycles and more time spent in REM, unlocking a feedback loop of emotional intelligence, memory refinement, and abstract thinking. Think of it like this. Memory, during REM. The brain replays the day's events, not in order, but in fragments. It tests, sorts, and strengthens the most important connections. For early humans, this could mean remembering migration paths, dangerous predators, or successful hunting strategies. Emotion. REM helps us process trauma, resolve fear, and rehearse social interactions. In a high-stress prehistoric world, that emotional reset was critical for survival and group cohesion. Creativity, dreams bend reality. They connect unrelated ideas. For Homo sapiens, this meant the ability to invent new tools, imagine alternate futures, or develop complex rituals and stories. Imagine a group of early humans who dreamed of a hunt before attempting it, who practiced danger scenarios unconsciously, remembered lessons better because their brains rehearsed them in sleep. It's no wonder that over time, Homo sapiens began to display more symbolic behavior. Cave art, ornaments, burial rituals, language. These weren't just signs of intelligence, or signs of dreaming minds. And dreams didn't just enhance cognition, they helped build culture. Let's not forget, storytelling began long before writing. Around the fire, under the stars, humans shared tales, some inspired by real events, others pulled straight from dreams. These stories taught, warned, connected, and in sharing them, Homo sapiens did something no other species could. They passed on not just genes, but ideas. So the next time you wake from a dream and think, that was weird, consider that dream may be part of a 300,000-year legacy. One that helped Homo sapiens dream their way to the top of the food chain. Let's zoom out for a second. We've talked about what happens in the brain during sleep. But what about the world around it? Because for most of human history, the environment shaped sleep far more than biology did. And if you wanted deeper sleep, the kind that builds memory and intelligence, you needed something first: safety. Think about it. Sleep is vulnerability. You can't run, fight, or hide. For any species to sleep deeply, it has to feel protected or be protected by others. Early on, Homo sapiens realized this, and they began to engineer safety in a way no other human species had. Let's start with fire. While Homo erectus may have used fire, Homo sapiens began mastering it. They built fires not just for warmth or cooking, but as defensive tools. Predators feared fire. The flickering light extended daylight, allowed social interaction, and most crucially made night less dangerous. But fire was just the beginning. Around 200,000 years ago, Homo sapiens began building semi-permanent shelters. Evidence of structured sleeping areas, dugout pits, soft bedding made from plant fibers. Even insect-repelling herbs suggest they weren't just crashing wherever. They were designing sleep environments. And here's something interesting. Many of these early shelters show signs of communal sleeping. Why does that matter? Because sleeping in groups creates psychological safety, reduces individual alertness, and allows for deeper, less fragmented rest. And when you feel safe, your brain can finally enter that deep REM cycle where memory, emotion, and creativity flourish. Compare that to Neanderthals. While incredibly intelligent and capable, their archaeological record shows less evidence of structured sleeping areas. Many of their caves were temporary shelters, often reused by large carnivores. That suggests more mobility, less permanence, and likely less secure sleep. It's not just about the architecture. It's about the mindset. Homo sapiens started trusting each other. They took turns keeping watch. They bonded through nighttime rituals. They created a culture of rest, and that made deeper sleep possible. Even our bodies evolved for this. Take our circadian rhythms, the internal clocks that tell us when to sleep and wake. Homo sapiens began syncing these rhythms socially. In fact, research on modern hunter-gatherer groups shows that at least one person in the group is awake 99% of the night. This sentinel hypothesis suggests ancient humans shared sleep protection, creating a kind of community-wide night watch. It's like your brain saying, okay, someone's on guard. I can go offline. That's huge. It means Homo sapiens began to distribute the risk of sleep across the group, allowing individuals to sleep longer and deeper. And guess what? The deeper the sleep, the sharper the mind. The sharper the mind. The better the tools, the safer the sleep. That's the loop. That's the genius. It wasn't just about fire or caves. It was about a new kind of cooperation. A species that could build shelters, trust group members, and use technology to sleep without fear. We weren't just surviving the night. We were mastering it. But while Homo sapiens were dreaming safely, others were struggling. So why didn't they make it? What stopped Neanderthals, Denisovans, and others from thriving, or even surviving? That's what we'll uncover in the next chapter, because sometimes the difference between survival and extinction is 8 hours of sleep. Let's imagine a world 50,000 years ago, a world not dominated by one species, but shared by many. You, a Homo sapiens, wouldn't have been alone. Walking the same paths, hunting similar prey, and building fires of their own were other humans. Neanderthals, Denisovans, Homo floresiensis, Homo luzonensis, and more. For a while, it wasn't clear who would win out. Neanderthals were physically stronger, Denisovans were incredibly adaptable, and all of them had been surviving for hundreds of thousands of years. So why are we the only ones left? The answer isn't just in tools or hunting tactics. It might lie somewhere more intimate in the dark hours, when the fire flickered low and one species dreamed, while others simply dozed. Let's start with the Neanderthals. We often think of them as brutish or dim-witted, but modern science has shattered that myth. They made art, buried their dead, used sophisticated tools. Their brains were even slightly larger than ours. But here's where it gets interesting. Neanderthal skulls show a different brain structure. Their occipital lobes, areas associated with visual processing, were more developed. They likely had sharper night vision, which was great for nocturnal awareness, but suggests something else. They may have evolved for shorter, lighter sleep. More wakeful nights, more scanning the darkness. Why? Because their environment demanded it. Neanderthals lived mostly in Ice Age Europe. Brutal cold, long nights, dangerous megafauna. Their shelters were often exposed. Even with fire, They likely needed constant vigilance. That means less REM sleep, less dreaming. It's more fragmented rest. Now compare that to Homo sapiens, who even when entering colder climates brought with them new kinds of shelter, tighter-knit social groups, and ritualized sleep environments. This didn't just provide safety, it optimized sleep quality, and quality mattered, because while Neanderthals may have been great hunters, Homo sapiens were becoming great learners. Here's a key point. Deep sleep and REM allow for pattern recognition. That means Homo sapiens weren't just reacting, they were predicting where the herds would move, when the ice would break, not a trap, not just chase. Over time, that pattern-seeking mind began to outpace the reactive one. Now let's talk about Denisovans. We don't know much, just fragments, a tooth, some genes. But what we do know is that Denisovans lived in harsh, altitude environments like the Tibetan Plateau, thousands of feet above sea level. Survival there meant constant stress. Thin air, sparse resources, cold. Likely their sleep was adapted. 2, that's stress efficient, but not deeply restorative. Meanwhile, Homo sapiens arriving in the same areas brought with them complex cooperation, language, symbolic thinking, and again, richer sleep cycles that nurtured those traits. Let's not overlook the role of language. Here, REM sleep has been tied to the development of complex language skills, practicing sounds, stringing together syntax, even forming the emotional tone behind words. Homo sapiens, sleeping deeper and dreaming longer, had more of these mental rehearsals, and language wasn't just communication. It was strategy. It was memory. It was culture. When Homo sapiens met other humans, they likely had advantages in storytelling, coordination, and social bonding. Not just stronger muscles, but stronger myths. And myths matter. They unite people. They help us remember danger. They tell us who we are. Eventually, those myths passed down from dreamers, and storytellers became the backbone of tribes, of identity, civilization. And while we did interbreed with Neanderthals and Denisovans, their DNA still lives in many of us. Those lineages as independent cultures faded, not because they weren't smart, but perhaps because they didn't dream as deeply. Now, let's be clear. This isn't a fairy tale where sleep alone decided the victor. Evolution is messy. Climate, chance, disease, migration all played roles. But deep. Quality sleep gave Homo sapiens the time and brain power to process it all, to adapt faster, to bond tighter, to imagine farther. So why did the others vanish? It's maybe because while they were surviving day by day, Homo sapiens were building. Tomorrow's in their minds every night. And the more we dreamed, the more we pulled ahead. Next, we'll explore how sleep didn't just help us outcompete others, it helped us build something extraordinary. Imagine you're huddled around a fire 40,000 years ago. You've hunted, eaten, and now the group settles in. Let's start with a simple question. One so ordinary, it almost hides its own strangeness. Why do we sleep? Seriously. Why do we spend a third of our lives unconscious, vulnerable, and detached from the world? Why did nature, with all its brutal efficiency, keep sleep in the blueprint of every complex living creature? For something that feels so normal, sleep is incredibly weird. Take this in. Every single animal you can think of. From elephants to house cats, from whales drifting in ocean currents to tiny fruit flies, must sleep. Even creatures without brains like jellyfish show sleep-like states, which means sleep probably evolved before the brain itself did. Let that sink in. Before thought, before memory, before emotion, there was rest. But it gets weirder. We know what happens if we go without food, hunger, without water, thirst. But try staying awake long enough, and your body will start shutting down faster than it would from starvation, hallucinations, immune failure, emotional instability, eventually death. Sleep is not optional, yet scientists still don't fully know why we need it. Yes, we understand what happens during sleep. We know about the stages: light sleep, deep sleep, REM. We can monitor. Brainwaves track hormone levels, measure breathing patterns. But when you ask top neuroscientists what's the true function of sleep, The answer is often a very careful, we're still figuring that out. Think about that. We've mapped the human genome, landed rovers on Mars, but we still don't fully understand what our brains are doing every single night. And yet, sleep isn't just some passive maintenance cycle. It's active. Our bodies repair, yes, but our brains are reprogramming. Memories are replayed, emotions recalibrated, toxins flushed, neural pathways pruned or reinforced. In other words, while your conscious self is offline, your real self, the deeper, evolutionary self, is hard at work. But here's the twist that brings us to our story. Not all sleep is created equal. Different species sleep differently. Lions can snooze 20 hours a day. Dolphins sleep with one hemisphere of their brain at a time, staying half awake. Some birds sleep mid-flight. And among ancient humans, Homo erectus, Neanderthals, Denisovans, Homo naledi, the way they slept may have changed everything. One species began to sleep, not just longer. More REM cycles, more dreaming, more memory consolidation, more creativity. And over time, that shift in sleep might have been the secret edge that changed the course of human history. That species? Us. Homo sapiens, and that's the mystery we're here to uncover. How did sleep, something so universal, so biologically hardwired, help one human species rise above the rest? Was it just better tools? Smarter brains? Was it what happened when we closed our eyes that truly changed the game? To answer that, we have to go back, way back, before cities, before language, before fire was even fully mastered. We have to journey into the prehistoric night to see what it was like to fall asleep when everything around you wanted you dead. Because the story of human dominance didn't begin with war or agriculture. It began with sleep. Close your eyes for a moment now. Imagine you're lying on the hard dirt floor of a savanna in East Africa, 1.5 million years ago. The air is warm but thick with unfamiliar sounds. Crickets chirp, distant howls echo. Somewhere nearby, something large is moving through the brush. You're not alone. Your small band of early humans is dozing nearby. But there are no walls, no fire yet, no weapons beyond stones and sticks. How do you fall asleep? This is what sleep looked like for our ancient ancestors, and it wasn't exactly relaxing. Let's start with Homo erectus, one of our earliest ancestors to walk upright and leave Africa. They were remarkable tool users, fire tamers, world travelers, but their sleep was shallow, fragmented, and brief. Why? Because the world was dangerous. Imagine trying to sleep while constantly listening for the snap of a twig or a lion's growl. These early humans likely slept in short bursts, light, fitful, and often interrupted. Their brains couldn't afford deep, unbroken REM sleep. Vulnerability could mean death, and it wasn't just the animals. The environment itself was hostile. Freezing nights, no shelter. Mosquitoes, predators, rival groups. Early humans had to evolve a kind of hypervigilance, even during sleep. But some things were changing. Fire was slowly being mastered. Small hearths started appearing in archaeological sites dating back over 1 million years. And fire brought something revolutionary. Safety after sunset. It may sound basic to us, but think about it. For millions of years, the night belonged to predators. But now, with fire crackling, shadows dancing, and smoke masking human scent, predators kept their distance. Firelight also brought social gathering, story sharing, bonding, planning, and perhaps most crucially, it changed how we slept. Still, even with fire, sleep was never deep for these early species. Homo erectus and even later Neanderthals likely slept curled up in small groups, often without permanent shelters. Fossilized bedding or sleeping areas are rare, suggesting they slept wherever they could, always ready to move, always on edge. Which brings us to something surprising when scientists compare the sleep of primates today. They found humans. Yes, modern humans actually sleep less than almost any other primate. Chimps sleep 10 hours, lemurs, closer, 2:15. Humans, around 7. So how did we evolve to sleep less but deeper? Because that's the key. Not more hours, better quality. Unlike Neanderthals, Homo sapiens began entering deeper REM cycles. More dream time, more memory consolidation, more creativity. And scientists believe this transformation in sleep may have been a hidden evolutionary weapon, one that changed everything. But how? Why us? And when did it start? To find that answer, we need to meet the species that slept differently. The ones who looked like us, but didn't think like us. The ones we outlasted, roughly 300,000 years ago. Something new emerged in Africa. They looked like other humans in many ways, upright, tool-using, fire-wielding, but inside their skulls, something was evolving. A brain not just larger, but wired differently. This was Homo sapiens, and their secret superpower might have started after sunset. You see, somewhere along the line, Homo sapiens began sleeping differently than other human species. It wasn't just that they found safer places to sleep, though that helped. It's that their brains were beginning to use sleep in new ways. Think about this. REM sleep, the dreaming stage, is deeply tied to emotional processing, memory consolidation, and even social bonding. It's like overnight therapy mixed with brain reorganization, and Homo sapiens were getting more of it. Why? Part of the answer lies in behavior. Unlike Neanderthals or Denisovans, Homo sapiens started forming more cohesive social groups. They built shelters, they built trust, they shared fire. And this created something new, a safe sleep environment. With more security came deeper sleep. And with deeper sleep came more REM cycles, which meant better memory, sharper language, more creativity, greater empathy. And that gave Homo sapiens a massive advantage. Imagine a species that not only remembered where the food was, but dreamed up better ways to hunt it. A species that didn't just react to danger, but rehearsed scenarios in their dreams. Planning ahead. This was the beginning of abstract thinking, imagination, strategy, culture, and it happened, quite literally in their sleep. It also allowed something else to evolve. Cooperation. REM sleep strengthens emotional memory. It helps process social cues. The more Homo sapiens dreamed, the more emotionally intelligent they became. That meant stronger group bonds, more trust, more complex societies. In a world of small tribes and big threats, that kind of cohesion wasn't just nice, it was life or death. And that's when the real revolution began, not with spears, not with fire, but with dreams. Because Homo sapiens weren't just surviving, they were beginning to imagine. Next up, we'll enter the strangest part of sleep, the place where reason breaks down. Stories unfold, reality bends, the dream world, and how it may have changed the real one forever. Close your eyes and picture the last dream you had. Maybe it was surreal. Maybe it made no sense. But chances are, it felt real while you were in it. And when you woke up, even if the details slipped away, the emotion often lingered. Now consider this. What if dreams were never meant to make sense? What if their true purpose was to reshape reality, not reflect it? Welcome to REM sleep, the stage where dreams are born and where the story of Homo sapiens takes its most profound leap forward. REM, or rapid eye movement sleep, is the phase where your brain becomes almost as active as when you're awake. Blood flow increases. Brainwaves spike. Your body becomes paralyzed, but your mind comes alive, playing out scenarios, reliving memories, and generating bizarre, symbolic stories. It's tempting to dismiss dreams as nonsense, but research shows REM sleep plays a critical role in memory consolidation, emotional processing, and creative thinking. In fact, some neuroscientists believe REM sleep is like a nightly brainstorming session, a chaotic but powerful engine that connects ideas, solves problems, and simulates experiences. And here's the evolutionary twist. Homo sapiens had more REM sleep than other human species. Let's break that down. Neanderthals likely experienced some REM sleep. All mammals do. But they're fragmented sleep patterns. Outdoor exposure? The lack of complex shelters? Likely. shortened and disrupted their REM cycles. They couldn't afford the luxury of prolonged dreaming.